Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of Starlink 9-2 mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base, Space Launch Complex 4 East from the West Coast. We hope you all are doing fine. We are waiting for a Falcon 9 liftoff at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time from California for a southeasterly launch for SpaceX Starlink mission. The Starlink mission 9-2 will launch 20 Starlink satellites, including 13 with direct-to-cell capabilities satellites to low Earth orbit. Today's Starlink mission marks SpaceX's amazing 359th overall launch. Hello, my name is Dipta Maitra, performing the commentary for today's mission launch. And we are super excited bringing you the coverage of the SpaceX 66th overall launch and 64th Falcon 9 launch of this year. This will be the 46th dedicated Starlink mission of this year for SpaceX. Prior to today's launch, SpaceX has launched 1005 Starlink satellites so far, over 45 flights this year, and overall 6,655 Starlink satellites to date. Now, before getting into the mission details, just a quick update. Teams from NASA and Boeing Space are targeting now not earlier than July for the return of Starliner crew from International Space Station. Dates are not confirmed yet, but future return opportunities are following the station's two planned spacewalks on June 24th and July 2nd, respectively. Secondly, the much anticipated US International Spacewalk 90 will be now performed by NASA's astronauts Tracy Dyson and Mike Barrett on June 24th, where Mike Barrett is replacing Matt Dominic in his current role. We will be streaming the event, so don't forget to tune in. Just a heads up, it's me only managing the launch coverages on my own, so if we hit any technical hiccups, hang tight, but nothing to worry. I will do my best to walk you through the Falcon 9 rocket launch happening in just some minutes. Now let's get back to today's mission. And before that, we would like to thank all of you joining us for today's launch. We express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone for being a part of today's stream. Now let's take a look at today's payload details for Starlink Group 9-2 mission. This launch marks the 46th dedicated Starlink launch for this year. Here would like to mention a quick fun fact. At the inception, the two identical Starlink test satellites called Microsat 2A and Microsat 2B were launched on 22nd February 2018. Upon orbital deployment, they were renamed to Tintin A and Tintin B. So Tintin A and Tintin B are the first two Starlink satellites to be launched. Starlink satellites are built at SpaceX Satellite Development Facility in Redmond, Washington. Today's Starlink launch consists of 20 version 2 mini satellites, including 13 satellites with direct to cell capabilities. The version 2 variant of Starlink is too large to fit inside a Falcon 9 fairing and is meant to be launched by Starship. So, to mitigate this problem, SpaceX modified the original version 2 blueprint into a smaller, more compact one and named it version 2 mini. SpaceX also indicated they would build satellites of the second generation constellation in two different but technically identical form factors. One with the physical structures tailored to launch on Falcon 9, that is version 2 mini, and another tailored for the launch on Starships, that is version 2. Each Starlink satellite is equipped with powerful 5 advanced Ku band phased array antennas and 3 dual band parabolic antennas utilizing Ka and E bands to provide increased capacity. Together, these antennas utilizes Ku, Ka and E band frequencies, allowing Starlink to provide high bandwidth connectivity, that is 4 times more capacity per satellite than earlier versions. Each satellite features a dual solar array with a size of 52.5 square meters, which unfurls to a wingspan of 100 feet. Also, it has a high capacity battery to provide power to the payloads. The two solar arrays are also aeroneutral, which enable faster on-orbit maneuvers. Each Starlink satellite contains 3 space laser transponders, that is optical intersatellite links or ISLs, for intercommunications operating at up to 200 Gbps, which together across the constellation form a global internet mesh that can connect customers anywhere in the world, also enabling the spacecraft to transmit data without local ground stations, providing truly global coverage. Each Starlink version 2 mini satellite weighs nearly 800 kilograms, that is 1763 pounds. Starlink satellites are equipped with efficient ion Hall effect thrusters powered by argon, which enable Starlink satellites to orbit raise, maneuver in space, and deorbit at the end of their useful life. Starlink is the first Krypton-propelled spacecraft ever flown, but later switched to argon Hall effect thrusters for cost effectiveness. Also, upon switching to argon, Starlink is the first argon-propelled spacecraft ever flown in space. Now a question arises that how much it affects the cost. So relative to Krypton, the argon required to fuel Starlink version 2 satellites will be practically free. To put it into perspective, fueling its next constellation of almost 30,000 version 2 satellites could cost SpaceX less than fueling 4,000 version 1 satellites which were based on Krypton. So that's a huge difference. Also, SpaceX claims that its second generation thrusters using argon has 2.4 times the thrust and 1.5 times the specific impulse of the previously krypton fueled thrusters. Today's payload will be placed in an orbit with an altitude of 295 kilometers and with an inclination of 53.16 degrees. But as you know, these configurations does not apply to every Starlink satellite. Starlink satellites are placed in different configurations based on their group. Starlink uses custom-built navigation sensors named Star Tracker that surveys the stars to determine each satellite's location, altitude, and orientation for best possible broadband throughput. Each Starlink satellite contains 4 reaction wheels, providing agile attitude control for the vehicle. The hot spare configuration ensures high reliability of operations, and its aluminum flywheel is fully demisable at the end of life. Also, it is worth mentioning the Starlink satellites are equipped with an onboard autonomous collision avoidance system for avoiding collisions with other spacecrafts and space junks autonomously, which utilizes the US Department of Defense debris tracking database. As today's Starlink mission do have direct to cell satellites, so just let's speak about direct to cell satellites. Speaking of SpaceX direct to cell Starlink satellites, direct to cell is a technology developed by Starlink team. In easy words, it's like having a cell phone tower in space. This technology allows cell phone to connect directly to satellites. Now imagine you are in a remote area where there is no cell tower nearby. Normally, you won't get any signal on your phone, right? But with direct to cell, your phone can get a signal directly from a Starlink satellite overhead. You don't need to make any changes to your existing LTE phones or download any special apps. It is designed to work with common LTE standards. Whether you are on land, lakes, coastal waters, or even in air, as long as you can see the sky, you can get a signal. It provides connectivity in remote regions, giving you peace of mind when you need it most. Recently, Starlink achieved its first video call on X through Starlink direct to cell satellites from unmodified mobile phones. Previously, we saw textual communications using Starlink direct to cell satellites, and Starlink is expecting to go live with T-Mobile later this year. Now, with the recent inclusion of Sierra Leone, Let's take a look at the countries where Starlink's low latency, high speed internet is now available. Currently, Starlink is delivering its service of low latency, high speed internet to 100 countries or territories. If you are feeling we are adding value to your viewing experience, we would like to request consider giving this video a like and also consider subscribing to us as we strive hard to bring streams filled with stats and details, and we would be super grateful for your support. Now let's go through a quick comparison of latency between Starlink and geostationary satellites. Recently, we had an update that Starlink achieved a new internal median latency record of 28 milliseconds. Also, now they have goal of median latency for Starlink internet in the US to get about 20 milliseconds. You know, the internet that comes from satellites, most of the time it's from a single satellite that's orbiting about 35,786 kilometers from Earth. Because it is so far away, the time it takes for data to go back and forth, what we call latency, is pretty high. This makes it tough to do things like streaming movies, playing online games, making video calls, or real-time data exchange. Now let's talk about Starlink. It's like a big team of thousands of satellites that are much closer to us, just about 550 kilometers from Earth. They are all over the place, covering the whole globe. And because they are closer, the latency is way lower. To put it into perspective, think of 25 milliseconds of latency compared to 600 plus milliseconds of latency. You can see on your screen what is the number of round trips in case of Starlink compared to a geostationary satellite. That's a huge difference. So in simple terms, Starlink's lower orbit makes it a game changer for satellite internet. This means smoother video calls, lag-free online gaming, and other activities that requires a lot of data and where the real-time data exchange is a priority. Moving on, let's learn a little bit about Starlink's collision avoidance system. It's quite fascinating to know how, despite having so many satellites around the Earth, they manage to stay safe and avoid collision. And how they do that. So let's dive in a little bit. SpaceX designs the Starlink satellites orbit raising and orbit lowering reference trajectories with a time optimal path planning algorithm. The algorithm includes additional constraints to ensure that the Starlink satellites always remain at a large and safe distance from space stations, other spacecrafts, space junks, and from other Starlink satellites as well under nominal circumstances. As an additional safety measure, Starlink's screening system constantly monitors the satellites planned reference trajectories against the space stations, other spacecrafts, and other Starlink satellites. The system alerts the Starlink operator immediately when a potential conjunction is detected, and the reference trajectories are replanned to change the geometry of the encounter and avoid the conjunction whenever possible. Each Starlink launch typically includes enough satellites to fill several orbital planes. For this very reason, a train of satellite is usually divided into smaller trains that depart from parking orbit on different dates to target specific orbital planes, which is also a part of pre-planned conjunction avoidance. The techniques for avoiding conjunctions at a planning stage are an additional precaution in addition to Starlink's onboard collision avoidance system. In this context, conjunction avoidance during planning refers to designing trajectories that maintain satellites far away from space stations under nominal circumstances. Deconflicting trajectories at the planning stage requires predicting potential conjunctions several weeks into the future, which naturally limits the accuracy of the results. As part of SpaceX multi-tiered approach to space safety, Starlink's automatic collision avoidance system allows satellites to plan maneuver to minimize the collision probability during close approaches that could not be avoided when planning. Today, so far, SpaceX reports that the weather is looking good for today's Falcon 9 launch opportunity and the range is ready to support. We hope they will be able to launch on time and not have to push too far. But if for some reason we don't have the launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, that is Monday, June 24th, with launch window opening at 8:22 p.m. Eastern Time. SpaceX is currently targeting a liftoff time of the Falcon 9 from Vandenberg Space Force Base at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be 8:47 p.m. Pacific Time, both on Sunday, that is June 23rd, and 3:47 a.m. UTC on Monday, that is June 24th. Now let's take a look at the flight record for the boosters supporting today's Starlink mission. The booster with tail number 1075 supporting today's mission is quite a young booster with 10 previous flights in its record, including missions like SDA 0A for Space Development Agency, a United States Space Force direct reporting unit it is. Next, Sarah 2 for German Armed Forces and 8 Starlink missions, now awaiting its 11th flight just minutes away. to Ed. Firstly, would like to welcome Ed. Thanks for joining us. And to answer your query, no, we don't have our own cameras. You can see we are a new channel, and right now we are out of infrastructure as well as financial conditions are not good. With your such kind support, maybe one day we will be having a camera on Cape Canaveral, and we are trying our best to meet expectations for everyone joining us. So if you everything is possible, but with only your support. And as of now, just let me to clear one confusion. We can, or any other channel can have cameras at Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Center as well, but not at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Once again, thanks for joining us, Ed. Hopefully, hopefully you will like the stream, although it seems like from your words that's what things you like we don't present here. So kindly bear with us for some days maybe, so we will be sooner getting a camera feed. But as I said, everything is possible with all you guys joining us and with your support, and we do need that, and we are thoroughly heartfelt grateful to all of you for supporting us so that we can improve ourselves and improve our stream quality as well. So let's move on to the mission details, and we were discussing about the booster history supporting today's mission. Today the booster with tail number 1075 will be supporting today's mission. I already mentioned the missions which it supported, and it is worth mentioning that the last mission supported by today's booster was Starlink Group 7-16 on March 19th this year, which was a rideshare mission as well. With that mission, it launched two classified payloads on this mission, identified as USA 350 and USA 351 by the US government. It is believed these two satellites are based off the company's Starshield satellite bus derived from the Starlink satellite bus. As these two payloads were classified, so we don't have any further information about that. Previously, with Starlink Group 6-59 launch on May 17th from Cape Canaveral, SpaceX achieved a record. For the first time, a Falcon booster with tail number 1062 launched for record-breaking 21st time. Just with the recent Starlink Group 8-8 mission, the supporting booster 1061 also had 21 flights as a milestone. As of now, boosters with tail number 1062 and 1061 are having 21 flights so far, and other boosters with tail number 1060 and 1067 have 20 launches so far. Now let's have a look at the bar graphs depicting Falcon 9 launches each year. Before today's launch, SpaceX completed 63 launches of Falcon 9 so far this year as part of its milestone, with recent Starlink Group 10-2 mission launch from Space Launch Complex 40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on June 23rd. SpaceX hit a big milestone this year's 50th launch with previous Starlink 8-7 mission. That's just two more than the half of last year's Falcon 9 launches, which totaled 48. Now, with the last Starlink mission launch, they have 15 more launches than half of the total launches made last year. This year's count already surpasses the total number of Falcon 9 launches from all the years leading up to year 2022, and they are now setting target to launches made in 2024. With the previous Starlink 9-1 mission launch from here at Vandenberg, they equaled the number of launches from the year 2022. Now, with today's launch of Starlink Group 9-2 mission, the bar graph depicts 64 Falcon 9 launches so far this year, which is 3 more than the launches made in 2022. They have already done more than half as many launches as they did all of last year, and it's only been 5 months and 23 days. If SpaceX continue with this pace, they are on their mighty way to hit the ambitious goal of 140 to 148 launches by the end of the year. SpaceX is really pushing hard to achieve their big goals. We just witnessed 4th integrated flight test of Starship on June 6th, which was quite a big success. Now awaiting the 5th one tentatively towards the early July. As we move through the countdown, we just want to say thanks to everyone joining us live. We really appreciate you being here. Big thanks to our amazing YouTube community for being here today. We are truly thankful and grateful for every one of you on this live stream. Your support means the world to us, and for that we are very much thankful to you all. Let's go ahead as we progress through the countdown and review the milestones that lie ahead for us on this Vandenberg's flight. At T-minus 38 minutes, countdown begins at this point when SpaceX launch director gives the go for the start of propellant load. If everything looks fine, prop load begins at T-minus 30 minutes mark, with the loading of rocket grade kerosene or RP-1 on board the first and second stages of Falcon 9 rocket. At the same time, LOX load, that is super chilled liquid oxygen, is loaded on board the first stage. And then at T minus 16 minutes, which will be the next event that we are looking for here, that's when the second stage liquid oxygen load begins. At T minus 7 minutes, that's when the chill down of 9 Merlin engines gets underway. It involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbopumps, which helps protect the engines from the risk of thermal shocks and damages during the startup sequence. At about 6 minutes before liftoff, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. In a T minus 4 minutes and a half, the strong back retract sequence begins. The process begins with the clamp arms underneath the payload fairing opening up, followed by the transporter erector or the strong back reclining about 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9. It remains in that position until liftoff. It's when it rapidly pulls back to clear the way for Falcon 9 rocket's vertical ascent. Now here is a point to be mentioned that this is a Vandenberg's flight. So for that, we will be reclining the strong back about 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9. Whereas in Cape and Kennedy Space Center flights, we recline the strong back about 1.5 degrees. The strong back positioned alongside the vehicle, also referred as a transporter erector or TE, fulfills multiple functions. It supplies propellants, provide air conditioning, pressurization gases, and electrical power. Additionally, it transports the Falcon 9 to the launch pad and positions it for the launch. Now here is an image on your screen showing how a strong back or transporter erector transports rockets. Although on your screen you are watching Falcon Heavy being transported, but it is the same process for Falcon 9 as well. Now at the T minus 3 minute mark, the first stage liquid oxygen loading should be complete, followed by the second stage liquid oxygen loading wrapping up at T minus 2 minutes mark. At that point, the Falcon 9 rocket is fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant. At T minus 1 minute mark, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. In the final 60 seconds countdown, the control of the flight system, that is launch sequence, is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. If everything looks good, at T minus 45 seconds mark, SpaceX launch director gives the final go for Falcon 9 liftoff. Now at T minus 3 seconds, the engine ignition sequence start command being issued by onboard engine controller. Finally, at T0, we will have liftoff. If all 9 Merlin 1D engines ignite and are healthy, flight computers will give the command for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9. Currently targeting a liftoff time of Falcon 9 from Vandenberg Space Force Base at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be 8:47 p.m. Pacific Time, both on Sunday, that is June 23rd, and 3:47 a.m. UTC on Monday, that is June 24th. Let's go ahead and briefly step through the trajectory for today's mission. Falcon 9 leaving the pad from Space Launch Complex 4 East from Vandenberg Space Force Base with the spacecraft on board the batch of 20 Starlink satellites, 13 with direct-to-cell capabilities Starlink satellites as well, for a southeast trajectory along the coast of Southern California, heading into a low Earth orbit, that is to the second generation ninth shell of the Starlink mega constellation, indicated by that green line on your screen. The red line you see indicates where Falcon 9 first stage will land after stage separation, just a little later, leaving California's coast. This is going to be a off the land landing, a drone ship landing using autonomous spaceport drone ship named Of Course I Still Love You here on the west coast, which means that the first booster with tail number 1075 supporting today's mission, flying for the 11th time, will be returning heading out to the drone ship. Estimated booster recovery is approximately 672 kilometers, with estimated fairing recovery approximately 703 kilometers downrange. And the stage 2 debris re-entry will be in the East Pacific. Currently there are 3 in SpaceX drone ship fleet. Out of 3, just read the instructions and a shortfall of Gravitas are based in Florida, and another, Of Course I Still Love You, here at California. We anticipate the addition of a 4th drone ship, possibly occurring late this year or in early next year. Now, speaking of fairing recovery, the 2 halves of the payload fairing will be recovered slightly farther downrange from where the first stage lands on the drone ship, after they will smoothly splash down with the guidance of parachutes. SpaceX will utilize a recovery vessel to retrieve them from the Pacific waters. SpaceX manufactures the fairing in-house, with the total cost of 2 halves is nearly $6 million. No wonder that SpaceX aims to recover the fairing for repetitive use, mirroring their approach with rocket boosters, upholding the motto of reusability and sustainability. You can see on your screen how a fairing recovery looks like. Although on your screen you are witnessing the recovery vessel dug in the Atlantic waters, but here at Pacific waters. Today's supporting recovery vessel is Go Beyond. SpaceX has named its other two new recovery ships Bob and Doug after Bob Bacon and Doug Hurley, the two NASA astronauts and the first crew SpaceX launched for NASA under Commercial Crew Program on the Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station back in 2020. Also, May 30th this year marked the fourth anniversary of Falcon 9 launching NASA's Demo 2 mission to space station, returning human spaceflight to the United States. Since then, Dragon has carried 49 people into orbit. Now here is a short video of the fairing separation and MBAC ignition. You can see how the fairing halves separate, exposing the payload on board the second stage to space and the MBAC ignition. And this one is of a fairing half. You know that protective shell from a rocket's payload. It's making its way back, plunging through the Earth's atmosphere, and the coolest part, it's having this mesmerizing halo around it. Hopefully you guys cherished these both two short clips. Now let's have a look through the launch timeline for the Falcon 9 rocket passing these events following liftoff. At t plus 1 minute and 8 seconds, Falcon 9 will pass through max Q, a point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Then there will be a couple of different events in rapid succession. First will be the first stage main engine cutoff, that is MECO at t plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds, followed by a major milestone with 4 seconds. Within 4 seconds at t plus 2 minutes and 28 seconds, where first and second stage will separate from each other. Just after 7 seconds later, second stage MVAC engine will ignite for the first time during today's flight, that is SES-1 at t plus 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Coming up next at t plus 3 minutes and 2 seconds mark, Falcon 9's payload fairing will be jettisoned. Would like to welcome Fairmed. Hope you are doing well, and it's completely fine. You can watch the stream later on. Nothing to get bothered about that. We are grateful that at least you came and told us that you won't be here, and hope that your health is also good. As of now, seeing your chat message, as you said you have an appointment to go, it really makes me a little bit concerning about your health. Hope your health is good, and do let us know how you are later on. So let's move on. At t plus 6 minutes and 1 seconds, the first stage entry burn will begin, lasting for 25 seconds up to 6 minutes and 26 seconds mark, ending the entry burn for the first stage. At this time around, we will hear the call out for stage 1 FTS flight termination systems being saved. Stage 1 FTS is saved, or one can say flight termination systems are turned off or disabled after the re-entry burn, whereas The stage 2 FTS is saved after the orbital insertion burn. Next major milestone, at T plus 7 minutes and 49 seconds, the first stage landing burn will commence, which will orient and set up the first stage for SpaceX iconic precision landing. At T plus 8 minutes and 14 seconds, the first stage will land on droneship. Of course, I still love you, for the 94th time overall, marking SpaceX 322nd overall landing to date. The second stage MVAC engine will shut down, that is SECO 1, and enter into a parking orbit at T plus 8 minutes and 38 seconds. T plus 53 minutes and 16 seconds, the second stage MVAC engine will reignite for a short 2 seconds burn, that is SES2, and turning it off at T plus 53 minutes and 18 seconds, that is SECO 2, which will set up Starlink deployment at approximately 1 hour and 10 seconds. Now, if you are still vibing with us, we would again like to request you to please give this video a like, as it helps YouTube's algorithm catch the drift and bring more space lovers and rocket buffs our way. And if you haven't subscribed us, now is the time. We would be totally amazed to have you on board. As mentioned before, your support means the world to us. Coming to some stats related to today's mission. Today's launch marks 359th SpaceX overall launch and 46th dedicated launch of Starlink satellite for this year. This is going to be the 348th Falcon 9 launch to date. 11th flight of this particular Falcon 9 booster supporting today's mission with tail number 1075. This is the 64th Falcon 9 launch of 2024 so far, and is SpaceX 66th overall launch of this year, including the third and fourth integrated flight test of Starship. We are expecting the next, that is the fifth integrated flight test, probably on end of June or early July. This is SpaceX 293rd Falcon booster reflight to date, that is the launch of a booster that has flown at least once before. As of now, we have a plan for the 10th Falcon Heavy launch on the GOES-U mission on June 25th, nearly after 6 months. Hopefully the weather will cooperate with us and we will be having this spectacular launch happening. 81st orbital launch for SpaceX, launching from Space Launch Complex 4 East, and will be the 148th overall orbital launch from Pad 4E, that is Space Launch Complex 4 East. With this mission success, SpaceX will have a remarkable 6,675 Starlink satellites launched to date. Now moving on to some reusability statistics. This launch marks 279th Falcon 9 booster reflight to date. Previously, I mentioned about Falcon booster reflight to date, and this one is Falcon 9 booster reflight to date. This is the 94th landing on, of course, I Still Love You droneship. 11th landing of the first stage booster with tail number 1075, with this mission's first stage landing, which paves the way to 253rd overall droneship landing, marking 305th Falcon 9 landing to date and 322nd SpaceX overall landing to date. Moving on to this year's key stats for SpaceX launches, including today's mission. SpaceX has a total of 66 launches, and out of those, 18 were non-Starlink missions and 2 Starship launches, where SpaceX reused boosters for 62 times in those launches, showing their commitment to sustainability and reusability. Now, if we look into the geographical distribution, we get they have 43 launches from East Coast, with 12 from Launch Complex 39A, that is Kennedy Space Center, and 31 from Space Launch Complex 40, that is Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The pad Launch Complex 39A is going to warm up back again with the upcoming GOES-U satellite launch for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and this one will be the fourth and the final launch for the GOES-R series. On the west coast, we have 21 launches, all from Space Launch Complex 4 East, that is here at Vandenberg Space Force Base, including today's one. And there was 2 launch from Gulf Coast at Starbase back in Texas for the Starship 3rd and 4th integrated flight test. As for landings, they have nailed it 63 times. Most of them were on drone ships, with 50 successful landings, 17 on Of Course I Still Love You, including one from today, 13 on Just Read the Instructions, and 20 on A Short Fall of Gravitas. And for ground landings, they have pulled off 13, 8 times on landing zone 1, only 1 time on landing zone 2, and 4 times on landing zone 4 respectively. Moving on to this year's orbital launches, including today's one, United States is dominating with 76 orbital launches, launch comprising a substantial 63.3% of the global total. China follows closely behind, accounting 24.2% with 29 launches. Russia maintains a steady pace with 8 launches, making 6.7% of the pie, while Japan has 3 launches so far, making 2.5% of the pie. Both India and Iran have entered the race with 2 launches each, making 1.7% of the pie. This is quite a close competition, but the United States and China are undeniably dominating the space race this year. Now, as we are getting closer to the webcast to begin, let's just check whether it is still on time. Yes, it is on time. We are only 7 minutes to go. Well, I forget to mention one thing, that Russia did launched a recent Soyuz 2.1A launch of ISS Progress 88, also referred as Progress MS-27, cargo resupply mission on May 30th from Baikonur Cosmodrome. Also about China, some news and videos are surfacing on social media with its booster falling with its booster of Long March 2C on SVOM mission falling in a residential area with toxic hydrogen gas leaking, which is quite frightening, and we hope that no one got affected by that. So now we have this pie chart showing 2024 orbital launches by rocket variations, including today's launch. Let's have a look and let me break it down for you. The green slice of the pie, that's the Falcon 9 rocket, a real heavy hitter this year, having a lion's share of the pie with 64 launches, making up more than half of the whole pie at 52.9% and leading. Then we got this pink slice labeled others, which is a mix of different rockets including Atlas V, Delta IV Heavy, Starship, Vulcan Centaur, ISRO's GSLV Mark II and PSLV-DL, Japan's H3 and H2A, Iran's Simorgh and Kayam 100, Russia's Angara A5, China's Gravity 1 and others. These names are not exhaustive. Also, I'm not taking all the names here, but they got 33 launches in total, which is 27.3% of the pie, which is quite impressive. Next up, we got Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab's Electron with 8 launches making 6.6% of the pie. With the recent 50th Electron launch on No Time to Lose mission, Rocket Lab has reached its 50th launch faster than any commercially developed rocket in history. It also broke the record of SpaceX Falcon 9. Next, we have Roscosmos Soyuz 2.1A and 2.1B rockets with 7 launches so far this year, which is 5.8% of the pie. Last but not least, we got China's Long March 2D, that is CZ2D, and Long March 2C, that is CZ2C rockets. The CZ2D, that is Long March 2D, has 5 launches making 4.1% of the pie, and Long March 2C, that is CZ2C, has 4 launches with 3.3% of the pie. We are getting near to the webcast to begin with only 1 minute to go. As we will be transitioning to the webcast, would like to again thank you all for joining us today on this live launch event. We are glad to have you all here with us. And we hope that until now you found this stream informative and we could make it to your expectations. And if you felt that we added any value to your viewing experience, consider giving this video a like, which really helps YouTube's algorithm to bring in more space fans and help people to find out this stream. So let's move on as it's getting the time for the webcast to begin. Although it's time for the webcast to begin, don't know why SpaceX is delaying. Just give us a couple of seconds and we will be again making it. Although don't worry, you guys are missing nothing. They are still playing those initial intro music. We have started pressurizing the
Strong back retract.
tanks, and now we got the call out that strong back retraction process has started. Hopefully you can see the clamp arms around the stage 2 are now coming to open. You are seeing the clamp arms opening up here underneath the payload fairing. The transporter erector reclining a 13 degrees away from the vehicle. Now less than 4 minutes away from liftoff. Coming up to the countdown. We are currently chilling in the Merlin engines back from T-7 minutes when we open up the valves which allows propellant down to the engines to get them prepared for the ignition just before T0. You can see the strong back is now retracting away. Next call out will be for the stage 1 LOX load being complete. Strong back retraction process is a slow process. because you might be able to see we still have the lines that are carrying liquid oxygen to the second stage, as well as the electrical signals and the air conditioning up there in the payload fairing.
Stage 1 launch load is complete.
We got the call out right on time. Liquid oxygen loading of the stage is complete. We are now waiting for second stage that will finish up at just inside T-minus 2 minute mark. Now currently we are inside 2.5 minutes and the range continues to be green, and the weather, of course, as you can see there, has cooperated. We don't expect any weather conditions to develop in the last couple of minutes. Again, if for some reason we do not launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow. We will be listening in couple of seconds for the lock slot closeout on the second stage.
Stage 2 lock load is complete.
And to call out our countdown, stage 2 lock slot is complete. All propellants are now on board the Falcon 9 with 1 million pounds of propellant. We are now venting down the pressure that was in the tubing on the strong back. That's why you can see those clouds coming out there. We did got a call out for ground gas closeout. That's where we bleed the pressure off, and that cold gas, when it reacts with the moist humid air, which gives you that nice white cloud, an indicator of launch coming up. Next event, T-minus 1 minute, and we did got the call out right on time. Falcon 9 flight computers on stage 1 and stage 2 are running the rocket through the last minute of count. Now let's listen to the go call out. Here we go. SpaceX launch director giving go for the launch. We are coming up on T-minus 30 seconds. All system continues to remain go for launch of Falcon 9 and Starlink.
T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting from the liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds.
15 seconds to go.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And the liftoff Falcon 9. Go SpaceX. Go direct to cell. Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Good call outs there. Power, telemetry and propulsion is nominal. We are into the throttle bucket. We are throttling down the 9 Merlin engines as we prepare for the period of maximum dynamic stress coming up. Next call out, we will be expecting for the vehicle being supersonic, where the Falcon 9 will be exceeding
Power and telemetry nominal.
Mach 1 on the Falcon 9. Nearly at T plus 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Now we have exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9. Falcon 9 is faster than the speed of sound as we have gone supersonic. We got the call out for Max Q as well. We are through the period of maximum stress on the vehicle. We have throttled the Merlin engines back up to full power. Next expected call out is for MVAC engine chill.
MVAC chill has started.
Right on time. Now we have started to chill down the MVAC engine on the second stage prior to its ignition just after stage separation. Coming up 3 events in rapid succession: the shutdown of main engine on first stage, that is main engine cutoff, MECO, followed by stage separation and ignition of second stage MVAC ignition, that is SES-1, that will boost the payload into low Earth orbit. So let's hear those callouts. We're getting amazing view of the Earth's horizon there.
Main engine cut off.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
We got all those rapid succession events callouts. First MECO, then second stage separation, and lastly the MVAC ignition. Now the stage nitrogen thrusters is now beginning to reorient the first stage, and the flight computers has commanded the 4 hypersonic titanium grid fins to slowly begin deploying. Now the stage separation is successful.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We got call out that the fairing has successfully separated. We are looking right now a view of the first stage continues under the guidance of grid fins and gravity as it descends back to Earth. It will continue to rise towards apogee before descending back down towards the landing on droneship. Of course, I Still Love You, stationed in the Pacific Ocean. Second stage, meanwhile, in the middle of its 6-minute burn, is on its way into the parking orbit. Now the next expected call out is for both vehicles being on a nominal trajectory. So far the launch has been great. Falcon 9's first stage has done its job and is on its way back. The second stage is running at full power and we are getting amazing views from space. Now we are getting ready for the first stage to return to the drone ship landing site. During this part of the flight, stage 1 relies solely on its grid fins for steering as it returns to Earth. These grid fins orient the Falcon 9 during re-entry and guide the rocket during its descent. Right now, we are viewing the second stage, but occasionally on your left side of your screen, you will see nitrogen gas bursts from the first stage for the altitude control. These are basically used to position the vehicle as it heads back towards the drone ship. Next major milestone at T plus 6 minute approximately, T plus 6 minutes and 1 second, we should be getting a call out for stage 1 entry burn startup. Today you can see on the second stage camera view, we are getting a nice
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
view of the sunset over the horizon of Earth. And we did got call out for stage 1 entry burn being startup. We have just lit 3 of Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. You can see we are rapidly slowing down the vehicle as it enters the Earth's
Stage 1 entry
atmosphere.
burn shut down.
And this burn lasted just around 25 seconds. And that's the confirmation of shutdown of entry burn on the first stage. The Falcon 9 first stage is equipped with 4 landing legs, and those are made out of carbon fiber with aluminium honeycomb. They are placed symmetrically around the base of the rocket and they will deploy just prior to the landing.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
We did got the stage 1 FTS being saved call out as it made its re-entry. Now next we will be getting stage 2 FTS being
Stage 1
saved
transonic.
call out when the second stage will go through its orbital insertion burn. Right now we got the call out for
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
stage 1 being transonic. Stage 1 is now traveling slower than the speed of sound as it heads back towards landing. Speaking
Stage
of
1 landing
landing,
burn.
we are about 60 seconds away from that. Stage 1 landing burn. There we go. Great shots of that landing burn with the center E9 engine now lit. We are slowing down the vehicle very rapidly. Should be seeing those landing legs deploy any
Landing leg
seconds now.
deploy.
Landing legs being deployed.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you have it. We have successfully made the 322nd landing of an orbital class rocket. Coming up next, we will have the second stage engine cutoff, that is SECO 1, and following that event we will enter into nearly 45 minutes of coast phase as the vehicle ascends to its target orbit.
MVAC shut down.
There we go. We did got the call out for the second stage MVAC engine shutdown, SECO 1. And these were the call outs we were waiting for. Second stage engine cutoff, SECO 1, as well as the confirmation of a nominal good orbit. Today's landing marks 322nd SpaceX orbital landing, SpaceX overall landing of an orbital class rocket. With that, we will wrap up our coverage for now. Be sure to check out the social media for confirmation of Starlink deployment. We want to thank all of you joining us with today's launch, and we hope that you all enjoy the week ahead. Also, we hope that you enjoyed the stream. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us, showing your such patience, love, and understanding, staying till the end, and we are glad to have you all here with us. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Dipta, signing off for now, and we will see you next time.